Welcome back to the 365 Fitness podcast. Today, I am going to be touching on alcohol. Now, obviously, this is part of our nutrition series where we are going through our. Let's start that. Welcome back to the 365 Fitness podcast. This is James, and we are going into our fourth episode of our nutrition series. In this episode, we're going to be talking all things alcohol. I think this one is going to be sort of invaluable to anyone that is listening to this that wants to make a change with their body composition, wants to make a change with their overall health, wants more energy, wants to feel better, sleep better. Alcohol will play a huge role in that. I think alcohol for Brits, I suppose, has always been a massive part of our culture. It's a massive part of what we do socially, especially I think for people that are sort of 40, 50, 60 and older. Going out to the pub, going out on a night out on the weekend and seeing your friends and drinking is a way of socialising, and that is absolutely fine. But obviously, age-old saying of everything in moderation. Now, for a lot of people, they're probably like, well, why can't I drink, or why shouldn't I be drinking alcohol? Again, awareness has been a massive thing I've talked about in the last few episodes. I think a lot of people don't realise, one, probably how much alcohol they do consume, and they also probably don't realise how often they are consuming it as well, because they're not aware. So why is alcohol detrimental to our health? Why is alcohol not seen as a good thing when it comes to our health and our body composition? Well, you might not realise this, but first and foremost, obviously, alcohol is a poison to the body. So when we do consume alcohol, our body will prioritise removing that alcohol from your body. So no matter what else is going on with your body, you might have trained, you might have been eating really well, you might have ticked all those boxes from a health perspective. If you then proceed to go and drink alcohol, your body will not do any of those other functions. It won't repair and recover from your workout. It won't be able to absorb all of those nutrients from the good things that you're eating, because it has to get rid of that poison first. So it has to focus on getting rid of your alcohol. So things like burning fat is put on pause. And then all those extra foods that you have been eating are probably then going to be stored as fat, because we're not going to be burning it for energy. Alcohol will slow down your metabolism while it's in your system. So your body's ability to use your fat stores for energy drops significantly. Your appetite, your cravings is probably going to go up. You all know, you've been out on a night out on a Saturday night, the next morning you get up with a bit of a hangover. The first thing you're going to do is reach for some greasy food because it makes you feel better. Obviously, we know it doesn't, but it's the first thing that we want and what our body craves. So it's not just, I guess, the fact that you've had the alcohol that night, it's the knock-on effect and the poor decision making that goes alongside it. Obviously, we talked in the last episode around banking calories for your social occasions. Obviously, when we're drinking, alcohol does have calories to it, and probably more if you're drinking beer and wine, then those calories will stack up. And if you are someone that is prone to overindulging and over-consuming, then obviously your calorie consumption is going to go up. You're not going to be burning the fat that we are after. And as I just mentioned, if you've been consuming alcohol, the chances are your decision-making is not going to be quite as good and as effective, and you probably are going to consume more food as well. So you've got a bit of a double whammy there. As I touched on a second ago, probably these are the things that we don't realise that alcohol does to us or has an impact on us. If you've been training really hard and your body is trying to recover and grow, as it does through our strength training and consuming protein and our rest, if you're then consuming alcohol, like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 nights a week, you come home from work, kids have gone to bed, and you're sitting and have a glass of wine. Well, your body's constantly in a state of trying to remove the alcohol and the poison, that it then can't be as effective to help your body recover and repair. And then you can't get the most out of all the other things that you're doing. So you're almost sort of selling yourself short when it comes to your exercise. You've probably noticed that when you have had a drink or two, your sleep's crap. Like, you have a really disturbed night, the sleep quality is not there. And again, if you're not sleeping well, you're probably going to wake up, you're going to be low on energy, you're going to have a bit of brain fog, you're not going to be sort of firing on all cylinders. And again, the chances are your decision-making process is going to go down. When we're tired, we may reach for things like your coffee and energy drinks, which will make you feel great for a short period of time. But again, they're probably then going to impact your sleep, and you're going to have those real highs and then those crashes throughout the day. And you might become a bit more reliant on coffee and different stimulants as time sort of goes on. What do we think? I want you guys to have a little think. What could we do? What could you implement that Because don't get me wrong, we all like a drink, and I'm not saying you can never touch alcohol again. What is it that we could be doing to, I guess, maximize our health while still being able to be social? Because that is a lot of the time what consuming alcohol is. It's a social thing. What could we be doing? Obviously, a couple of things that we could do, and which is what I would recommend. This is what we're basing today on. First thing I'd recommend is that don't do it on a school night. A lot of people, out of habit, will reach for the glass of wine or a drink when you sort of settle down for your evening and your day is done. That's your trigger, when we talked about that before, to sit down on the sofa, have a drink, and then relax. I would encourage you to do your best to change that routine, that trigger, to something that's going to be more desirable and something that's going to be better for your health. It might be that when you go to unwind and relax for the evening, that it's not necessarily the drink that you're after. You're looking to try and de-stress and unwind. So it might be that you sit down, do some stretching for 5 minutes, just to down-regulate and bring your body back down to a state that hopefully it will be able to have a good night's sleep. I would also suggest that if you are going to drink, you could do those obvious things of playing the game of maybe have one drink, one glass of water, one drink, one glass of water. That way you'll stay hydrated, but obviously you're not going to get yourself in as much of a pickle as soon, and it's probably better for your bank balance. And the other thing you could do, and I think this is a good test for people to do, is I believe, I'm not a big drinker myself, but I believe you can still have a good night out even if you're not drinking. And socially and culturally, it's almost frowned upon if you don't have a drink, especially in with some sort of age groups and demographics, that if you're not drinking, you're seen as the strange one, which is baffling when you think about it, that you're the one that's not having alcohol, which we know all of those side effects that we just talked about, yet you're seen as the one who's being odd and strange and a Debbie Downer and they're boring and all those other things. Well, an easy get out for me now is I actually really enjoy a Guinness Zero. Guinness Zero tastes pretty damn close to the real deal. And if you go and order it, people aren't going to tell what you've got in your glass. They're not going to know whether it's a proper pint of Guinness or it's a Guinness Zero. Obviously, that's quite a specific drink to be going for, but that's something we could do, is look at those non-alcoholic versions instead of the real deal. It could still give you that craving that you're looking for. And if you're pouring a glass of wine, you might just pour something different into that wine glass, because it's the feeling of holding the wine glass that's a bit of a habit rather than what it is that you're consuming. What other things do we think we could try and do that could help us when it comes to alcohol and that consumption? I always like to think that being active around your social occasions will help that, because almost mentally you trick yourself in that you don't want to undo the hard work that you've already done. So potentially, if you know you're going out on the Saturday evening, for example, you might book in going for a walk, going to do an exercise class. You might book to do something that the following day, because then consciously you'll know in the back of the head that you've got that coming up. And then potentially you'll make better decisions. And then those compounding effects, those small changes that you make day in, day out will really start to add up, and you'll notice a difference. Obviously, I've rambled on a lot about alcohol today. I do believe that it is all awareness when it comes to nutrition. And I will keep banging that drum that being aware is the first step we need to making good changes. And if you take one thing away from each of these podcasts and implement them, that will do you an absolute world of good. Now, I am just going to pull up what those 3 commitments are going to be from this week to the next. It might take me a second to find them because I'm not prepared today. Baby brain has officially kicked in. So bear with me for just a second. So alcohol week. Fine. I believe what we are going for our 3 additional commitments, it's going to be add in 1 hour of no screen time before bed, or that blue light exposure. The aim with that is to try and improve our sleep quality. Sleep is massively underrated and undervalued, and I think I've always taken for granted just how important sleep is. I, as of recording this, have a 3-week-old baby at home, and that has completely thrown sleep out of the window, and I'm noticing the impact that's having, one on sort of my capacity for work during the day, but also on my training and my energy levels when I'm training. So when you can, really try to do anything to help your sleep quality is going to be super important. And one of those things is to set up your environment and try and remove that blue light exposure before bed. So 1 hour of no screen time. Second one would be to batch cook a high protein meal for freezer emergencies. We also asked our members to post that meal into the group chat for inspiration to others. The reason why we're doing that is if you have had a night out or you know you've got something coming up and then you haven't had an opportunity to make a dinner or make something for the next day, the chances are if you are hungover, you're going to make bad decisions. If you've already thought ahead and you've batch cooked something and you've prepared it and it's ready, it's in the fridge or the freezer, you've taken the guesswork out entirely and you can pop it into the microwave, you can get out and reheat it, however you want to reheat it, and you're back onto that bandwagon, you're back in with some momentum and we're heading in the right direction. And then the final one, which will take us into next week's podcast, is to read or listen to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Now, a lot of what we have spoken about in these episodes is loosely referring to Atomic Habits. It is a fantastic book, pretty life-changing for a lot of people, and you will have a light bulb moment when you do take in the information that is included in that book. So please do go away and read or listen to that. I am more of a listener than I am a reader. And one thing that I have done is I found a channel on Spotify called What You Will Learn. Now, that is a podcast by two Australian guys, and they go away, read all of these books, and then they give their review of what they learned from their book in like a 20-minute podcast episode. I've done that with most of books like Atomic Habits. It's a fantastic way to take in that information, or go on ChatGPT and get a summary from there, and that will help you get those key points from it. So the next podcast, we're going to be talking all about Atomic Habits and looking at identity-based goal setting. Hopefully you've enjoyed today and I've not rambled on too much. I'll see you on the next one.